Okay, there we go. I did it. I'm live, kind of on time, because I'm a good content creator. That's the story we're sticking to. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back to another stream. We've been doing a little bit more of these recently. My name is, of course, Joshua Joshi Howard, and today we're going to be talking about the Tacoma Open that I went to recently, an 8-round event run by Games Workshop, which I will put up here, placings. This was a really big event that took place in Tacoma, Washington, which is just south of Seattle, if you're at all familiar with geography. I went to this one with a couple of buddies and mostly just went and I was trying to do as well as I could. I had a bunch of people asking me before I went to this event, like, hey, do you have any goals for being at Tacoma? And realistically, in my head, like, generally what I said is like, I'm just going to try and do as well as I can, which in my head was like, if I did worse than 5-3, I think I would have felt like I had a bad event. So realistically, I was like anywhere between like 5-3 and 7-1. I think was generally like my window of this is how I expect to do at this event. And the biggest thing for me was the meta going into this event was, I'm gonna be honest, like the meta for like the past couple of weeks of 40k has just been awful. I really hate the current meta that we're playing in. So I went into this one telling myself that I wanted to win every game that I didn't play against the big three. That I was not playing up against Imperial Knights, going up against Chaos Knights, or going up against Death Guard. And if I won all of my other games, I would be very happy with that. And as long as I'm not losing to like people that I'm not supposed to be losing to, I was gonna be okay with that. So anyway, yeah, so the big thing about this one that you'll see kind of right away without like looking directly at how people are doing is if you're not familiar with how the Games Workshop opens work, and I was not super familiar with this before I went to this event, a lot of the placings seem a little bit odd if you're not sure like what's going on. Like an easy example is why is Steven Salazar, who went 6-2, higher placed than Scary, Ridvan Martinez, who went 8-0. And that's because there's a lot of like brackets that end up happening at Tacoma that you don't really see while you're playing. So the biggest thing is your first 4 games are played in an open Swiss. Like you can play anybody who has the same record as you do in the first 4 rounds. And then after those first 4 rounds, you play 3 of them on day 1 and 1 of them on day 2. They will split you off into different brackets based on how your record is before that. So if you went 4-0 at the beginning, you were going to be put, or a couple of people, like I think there were some people who had some draws. If you went 4-0 at the beginning, you would be put in the top bracket, the top 32, which means that no matter how your next 4 games go, you can lose the next 4 games like David Parker or Dominic Ferraro did, and you are going to get top 32. It does not matter how the rest of your games go. Whereas immediately, if you look at the next page, you can see that other people like Justin Serrano, he lost his round 4, which meant that he's in the 3-1 bracket, which means that no matter how his next 4 games go, he cannot do better than 33rd. So there's a lot of that. So you'll see a lot of people who seemingly have worse records at Tacoma or other Games Workshop Opens, getting outplaced or doing better in their placing than people who had better records. So just kind of want to explain that before we go a bit too far. Yeah, that's basically it. This was a big, like I said, 8 rounds of 40k coming in. Of course, I was playing guard. So let's go ahead and start talking about that a little bit. Actually, before I start talking about that, I do want to just say thank you for tuning in. If, as a bit of a celebration of sorts, the fact that we are now over 3,000 subscribers on this channel towards the end of this stream, I have a big AMA, and so I've compiled a bunch of questions. Here they are. I'll go ahead and talk about them towards the end. So if you have more questions that you want to talk about, if you throw them in chat, I will try and take a look at them as well. So we'll see how that goes. I'm getting pinged about something. Doesn't matter. Okay. Cool. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about what I actually brought to this one. And one of the other things that you should know about these Warhammer Opens, the really big GTs that Games Workshop puts on, is that you do not know the mission pack until like the night before. So you either do not know until the morning of, or you can go the evening before and pick up the mission pack. And they actually, I'll go ahead and talk about it a little bit. They give you this slick box that comes along with everything that you need to know. So if you go to the event, you get some stickers. I put stickers on like my carrying case. You get a set of objective markers, which have like, looks like they have different Chaos Legions on them or something to that effect. So you get objective markers that I don't use. You get a couple of metal dice with the Warhammer symbol on them. They are very heavy, and so I would be scared rolling these because I feel like I would break things. They also make, like, as soon as you start like moving around with them, all of the other dice that you have, like this is a WTC die. These just feel really light as soon as you start handling the metal dice. You also get these. If you don't have like the chapter approved like set of cards, you can get them. I'm not gonna lie, these are not the highest quality of cards in the world, especially since I have the other ones. They're basically just card stock that they cut into pieces, but some people like them. I'm going to give this away to one of my club members when I get back to SoCal at some point, or next time we see them. What else did you get? You got we'll go over the mission pack in a moment. You get this bookmark. I actually think this bookmark is pretty slick. It's like metal, and it's got like War Leader on it or something. I don't know if you guys can see that super well. But you get that. You get a dice bag, which I will not use, but it's cool. And then you also get this big old notebook, which is actually like pretty good as a notebook. The pen is not like super high quality, but like, big notebook. Cool. I like it. I don't know what I'll use this for, but that's a problem for later, Josh, not right now. And then the most important thing, the rest of this is kind of cool, but the thing that I went for the evening before, close. What are you getting stuck on? There we go. The thing that I went for the evening before is the mission pack, because you get this series of cards. Also, hello. I don't know if that's an LX or an IX, but I'm gonna say X until I know better. Thank you for tuning in. So we got this, and it talks about like the schedule and the fact that they don't use like game clocks, which is like, here, I'll just read this because I think it's silly. Outside of tournaments, many players do not complete their games against a set clock. Yes, but this is a tournament, so like, why are we not allowing that? Anyway, so it just goes over like the milestones, which is odd. I don't think it's a good choice, but it is what it is. Anyway, the more important thing is you get the mission pack. So you have the mission, the layout, and then on the back of each of these cards, it has the measurements for the layout they're actually playing in. And one of the big things that I was doing is, in preparation for this event, I had like 3 lists that I was really considering playing for this. The first one was based on the like Edmonton Open similar event that they had up in Canada. The first thing that I was looking at was, there's a bunch of really open boards. For that, maybe I just play as many tanks that I can reasonably put in a list and just shoot people to death on these open boards. The other one that I was thinking of is, if it ends up being a bunch of closed boards, I can just play like 12 to 18 Bulgrin, 2 Dorns, and basically just play a similar list to what like Nassim and Chetel Andre Lickness from I want to say Norway, but it's one of the Scandinavian countries, like what they're taking to WTC. The third list that I was thinking about is just like what I call the standard tank package, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then just Kazarkin in boxes and run around from there. And anyway, I ended up getting the mission pack the Thursday evening beforehand. I went to just go kind of hang out. I was kind of expecting like the Thursday evening before to be a little bit more, but instead I just went and grabbed, all these mission packs, and it ended up being like a pretty, like, overall is a pretty reasonable mission pack. There was like 1 or 2 in here that I thought were probably not the best decisions, but overall, it was pretty normal. So at that point, I decided I don't want to play the full tank skew because the boards aren't that open. I don't want to play the Bulgrin because the boards aren't that close. I ended up playing something in between, which let's go ahead and talk about right now. I titled this Dr. Ogren, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bodyguard. This is based on like one of the things that I was talking about. We'll go ahead and get to that as I go through the rest of the list. So this is a pretty normal looking list as far as like mid-board and tanks style combined arms lists go. I had 2 Kading command squads with all bells and whistles. I had an Ogren bodyguard with a Bulgrin Maul and a brute shield, the Rogaldorn commander with the Grand Strategist enhancement and Ursula Creed. That's all of my characters. I had 1 unit of 10 Kading shock troops to join to Kading command squad and Ursula Creed. I had 1 20-man Death Corps of Krieg as well, just running around. I had 2 Chimeras, both with heavy flamers, 1 Taurox, 1 Hellhound with a multi-melta, 3 units of Kazarkin, 2 Luminous battle tanks, 1 Luminous exterminator. And when I say like the standard tank package, to me what that means, especially on Games Workshop boards, is you start off with this Rogaldorn commander with Grand Strategist, then you put in 2 Luminous battle tanks, an exterminator, and a Hellhound. The one thing about this that I will point out is I thought I submitted Meltas. I played the entire event with Meltas, so nobody called me out on that, and I did not realize this until after the event when someone was asking, like, hey, what list did you take to Tacoma? And then I saw this, and I was like, well, I thought I submitted Meltas. I played the entire event with Meltas, so, yeah. You know, if somebody's upset with me, it is what it is. Okay, the big thing about this, so there's a couple big reasons on why I was trying to play this style of list instead of the all tanks or anything else. And the biggest thing for me is that these Warhammer Opens are really, really big. This one was 455 players, I think was what ended up being the number. And because of that, you have a lot of players who are going to their first GT or who are not very strong players. And the biggest thing for me was I wanted to build a list that did not automatically lose the game playing against knights, because realistically, like playing against knights, if they fail a couple extra saves or they make a couple of extra saves, like the game just becomes so swingy so quickly that I feel like there's not a ton of skill expression after just roll dice at your opponent. So I wanted to make sure I didn't just fail the stat check. I wanted to give myself an opportunity to pass that stat check. But the other big thing, and the main reason why I put a couple of these pieces in, is the Ogren Bodyguard is, with the Kading Command Squad, is just a unit that everybody, even good players, undercommit into. It is just way more durable than people think it is, and because of that, you end up just having more, just like more on the board than you expect to. And it actually has like a fair amount of skill expression to it because of how the resurrection of models works and making sure you put wounds in the right place. So it's one tool that I have to just play better than my opponents, is having a unit that is weird that gives me tools to play. The other big thing that I wanted in this list was this package of 2 Chimeras and a Taurox and 3 units of Kazarkin. And Kazarkin, for me, are one of the units in the Guard Codex right now that has the highest, like some of the highest skill expression opportunities in our list, or like in the Guard Codex. Like there are things that you can do with Kazarkin that nothing else in our Codex provides. They are one of the best skirmishing pieces in the game. You can show skill expression by keeping them in the transport or taking them out of the transport, depending on like what the actual game is calling for. You can give them move. You can give them damage orders. You can throw grenades with them. You have the Meltamine. Like there are just so many things that this unit does, and it gives you just like this mid-board dominance that not a lot of other armies can really play like the skirmishing nearly as well. So in general, I have the damage package. I have enough units that I can out-skirmish most other people, and by including the Ogren Bodyguard and the Kazarkin units, I felt pretty confident that unless I'm playing against very good players, I should be able to out-skill them on the board. And that'll come up a little bit more as we start getting into some of the games that we look at later in this event. So That's the list I ended up taking to Tacoma. I felt pretty good. I'll go ahead and say, like, right now, I think that this list is like pretty close to a local maximum. I don't think that, at least on Games Workshop boards or just general, like, you kind of play a little bit of everything. I don't think there's a lot about this list that I can change without making like large, more sweeping changes to the list. I think the rest of it would have to be like I'd have to do several other things in order to make the list work. I feel like it's pretty close to like optimized for what it is. Anyway, Roger025, hello, thanks for tuning in. I love the Ogre and Bodyguard Canadian Command Squad as well. I think I learned about them from you. Hell yeah. They've won melees into demons and orcs and forced enemy to commit greater demons and big stuff. Yeah, that's the biggest thing about them. I tell every opponent, if they haven't seen it before, this is going to take more to kill than you think it does. And every single time they're like, almost every single time they're just like, wow, yeah, that just took a lot to kill. So it's a big deal. Okay, with that then, well, oops, I forgot to paint. Yeah, all right, hold on. Let me get the thing open. Ba-bum, ba-bum. Okay, where is it? There it is. Let's go ahead and crop that and set this up. You guys are going to see a lot of the things that end up happening kind of behind the scenes while I normally record these that I don't want to edit 8 games, to be entirely honest with you guys. That's why we're doing a live stream. So, okay, round 1. Round 1, I ended up playing up against Dustin and his Eldari. What was this detachment? Hold on. I know he told me I think it's the reroll 1s detachment, which is Aspect Host. Yeah, so this is Aspect Host. I ended up playing up against Dustin and his Aspect Host Eldar. So let's go ahead and talk about the list. I have an Ogren and some Krieg command squads. Always wanted to try that combo. You suggest like putting them alone or attached or something. So the big thing, Roger, I do have a video about it, the command squad Ogren bodyguard unit. Firstly, it needs to be a Cadian or a Catachan command squad. You can't really do it with a Krieg command squad, and the big difference is the kind of med pack that they have. The Cadian and the Catachan command squads both have a med pack that allows you to revive models, and the Krieg command squad has the what do you call it? The alchemic counter agents or something like that, and that gives you like a 6-up feeling pain against mortals or something useless. So the Krieg command squad doesn't have the crucial war gear that makes this unit really good. So you don't attach it to anything, you just run it by itself. What's up, Anthony? Multi-melt as an exterminator actually being plasma is clearly the only reason. Yeah, that was a good game. We'll talk about Anthony's game in a bit. I've never tried them with Krieg command squad, ironically with Cadian command. They have Power Fist and are strong in melee. Yeah, it's always Cadian or Catachan. Unfortunately, you can't do it with Krieg. Dragoth definitely learned about the command squad with Bodyguard from you, and they are so good. They are really good. I'll go ahead and get back to some of these comments after we talk about Dustin's list. So Dustin, as I said, was playing Eldari Aspect Host, and he had Avatar of Cain, Lycus as the Warlord, and Autarch with the normal stuff. 1 unit of Corsairs. 1-2 units of Dark Reapers, 1-2 units of 5 Fire Dragons, 1-2 units of 5 Howling Banshees, a Shadow Weaver. So this is like a little indirect platform that, if I remember correctly, like makes you take mortals if you move with infantry after it shoots you or something to that effect. 2 units of 5 Striking Scorpions, 2 units of 5 Warp Spiders. One of them had like a bunch of Power Swords, and the other one had like an extra, like a better flamer or something. I don't remember exactly. 2 Falcons and 1 Wave Serpent. The big thing for this game was I think Dustin put Dark Reapers in both Falcons, and the Wave Serpent had, the standard package of Howling Banshees and the Fire Dragons. And so this is like a pretty reasonably normal looking list for Aspect Host. I think the only thing about this for me is like I feel like the Avatar of Cain just takes up a lot of points for this army that could have been like 2 or 3 more units, but it also might be really important in order to deal with knights. I don't know. I don't play Eldar yet. Yeah, exactly. It's the Krieg of the Medic built into the squad instead. Okay, so this was Dustin's list. Let's go ahead and talk about the game that we were playing, we were playing. This was on Mission J, which is Linchpin, Search and Destroy. And if this is the first time you've ever watched me doing things, as always, I will be down here. My opponent will be up here. Okay, so let me remember this game. So the biggest thing about this game is honestly, this game was like all about control. And one of the big things that I was trying to do is go first or second. I needed to be fast on the board. I needed to have control. I needed to be able to hunt down all of the aspect warriors that were coming in. And one of the things that I remember about this game is Dustin put like unit striking scorpion something like here, and there's another one like here, something like that to start, or maybe they started here. Regardless, they ended up moving in this area. They ended up being here at some point. And the biggest thing for me was I was going to try and hunt down all the little pieces. I wanted to kill all the warp spiders. I wanted to kill all the striking scorpions. And then once I know where my opponent's like army is going, I will be able to like react to that. I can pre-measure the Avatar of Cain. I can pre-measure all the fire dragons, even with the star engines on the vehicles that they're running around in. And once I have this information, I can really lock them down. There's only a couple things that present any threat to the Rogel Thorn. They're fire dragons and the Avatar of Cain. And as long as I can deal with those, I'm in a pretty good position. So this one of the big things that I think Dustin underestimated was just how important his maintaining his striking scorpions really were, because there's one, I don't remember if it started here or here, but either way, it was here. I had like a Chimera, 20 Krieg, and I had like another Chimera like here, and Taurox like this. And so like this scouted like this, and this scouted like the tiny bit that I was allowed to go that way. And from this, I was just trying to like project as much threat as possible across the board, be able to hunt down all the aspect warriors. And the big thing was that the striking scorpions that started wherever they were in here, and this one, I was going to overwatch one of them, right? He can only overwatch one of these units, or he's going to try and make a 9-inch charge. And the 9-inch charge is just not smart. And what ended up happening is this unit of striking scorpions ended up like coming in this way, and this one came this way, and I ended up like beating this one to death with the Ogre Bodyguard, and ended up overwatching most of this one to death on my opponent's turn 1. And so I just got 2 really precious units for the Eldar basically for free. And then from there, I already knew just like these striking scorpions did not trade themselves for Khazarkin. They didn't trade themselves for anything useful, really. They just like tied a couple of things up, and I was able to fall back and still be in the places that I wanted to anyway, such that I was just going to be up in material basically from the start of the game. The other big thing that I was doing in this game was I wanted to make sure that the Avatar, which Dustin chose to put in reserve, I was going to make sure that I chose what it was going to hit. And the other major way that this happened was he had it in reserve. I think it ended up coming in on turn 3, but at this point I still had a Leonar's battle tank in reserve that I had not yet brought in. And the biggest thing for me was, as we're going into the bottom of 3, I know Dustin has to rapid ingress this at some point. And my big goal was, or maybe it was bottom of 2 that he brought in. Either way, I know he's trying to rapid ingress it somewhere. I wanted to make sure that it was going to go either like here, in which case it's playing for this objective and it is never really threatening my home because it's just too slow, or it's coming in here, but it's coming in such a spot where it has to spend a turn punching whatever I want over here. And so I ended up putting a Leonar's battle tank from reserve here, such that it could shoot down this corridor, and just end up bringing the Avatar over here, which again is just one of the bigger things that you'll learn as you like play more and more 40k is putting a lot of things in reserve, unless you have deep strike everywhere, is kind of a trap for a lot of people. A lot of people put way too much in reserve, because by the time like the Avatar is rapid ingressing here, well, what if it just started here in the first place? right? Like you end up just attacking your own CP kind of for very little. Um, yeah, and so I by controlling the avatar like over here, I never really had any issues controlling like my side of the board. With a couple of resurrection tricks, I ended up holding this and this and this basically every turn, and I was going second on linchpin, which by the time I'm already scoring 13s on turn 2, like the game is very close to over already. Um, the one thing about this game that so there was like two things that kind of happened in this game that were a little bit interesting. The first one is we learned, or I learned, I don't know if Dustin learned this, but all of the aspect or the battle focus tokens that you have for normal moves out of phase do not follow the surge move rules, which means that you can do them even while battle shocked. And that was kind of a big deal because at some point, I don't remember if it was a Falcon or a Wave Serpent, it became here. I ended up killing it, and then there was like Fire Dragons that was like here-ish or something, and there was a discussion over whether I was going to shoot them with like multi-meltas or if I just wanted to devote an entire tank. And the biggest difference that we had here was I told him based on the understanding that they cannot move with your battle focus tokens after I shoot them, I'm only going to shoot them with these guns. And then we had a thing where I ended up talking to a judge. We found the relevant FAQ and then found out that no, he can actually move them. But because I was like, because this is my understanding, this is what I'm going to do. And then when we learned it was wrong, it's like, okay, well, clearly I said because like this is what I'm trying to do because I don't think they're allowed to move. I'm going to do this, and then as soon as like, okay, they actually can move, it's like, well, I'm just not going to shoot them. So that was one of the big things. The other big thing that I forgot, and I was a little bit scared on like turn 1 or something, I had a Chimera that I had scouted up here. It came like over here and put out a bunch of Kazarkin to make sure my opponent was only getting 3 points of primary at the beginning. And there was like a transport here and the Wave Serpent here. And the Chimera ended up shooting like a Hunter Killer into this or something like that. And he was like, okay, awesome. Is that the end of the activation? Cool. I'm going to go ahead and move this transport. And I thought I had lost the game because I was so used to playing against Inari where they're like, I'm going to now move this Star Engines 21 inches of movement on the Wave Serpent. But he ended up like moving at D6. And I was like a little bit panicked because I was like, oh God, did I just lose my first game at Tacoma because I forgot that he can reactive move things? No, I didn't end up losing the game, but it was one of those panic moments of like, oh God, where is this transport actually going? So this one, I think the biggest thing is just like trying to understand that we're trying to play a trading game into Eldar, but we're also more than that, we're trying to play a primary game. It's okay for us to give up secondaries as long as we are making sure that they are never scoring primary. And so by putting just enough stuff for me over here to make sure that I could deny this for 1 or 2 turns meant that I was going to build a massive primary lead, and going second, I was also going to be able to leverage that into a pretty big win. Let's go ahead and grab the scoreboard. Don't think there was a ton of super learnable moments from this one, but this one ended up being a pretty big win. I ended up holding Dustin to like 9 primary, as you can see, and I scored all 50, which is kind of how a lot of games into Eldar tend to go. I do think he eventually got the avatar like here. It beat up a Lehman Russ that was here, and then as the game was ending, because I can't kill the avatar. He ended up like charging it into the Rogel Thorn and like top of 5. I was like, okay, cool, you got your 1 kill. Anyway, so that was a fun game. Dustin's a good guy. He owns, or he is a co-owner of Waystone Wargaming, which is a really cool like speakeasy up in the Ballard area of Seattle. So if you're looking for cool places to play in Seattle, definitely recommend checking it out. It's mostly off of membership, but the space is just really cool. So you can just like walk in and say hi. Anyway, that was the first game that we ended up playing at Tacoma. So let's go ahead and pull up stuff for the second game. Yeah, okay, so there's that. And we'll set that one up. Okay, My second game, I ended up playing up against Anthony LaMonica, who is in chat. So Anthony, welcome in. You can hear a bit more of my thoughts about this one. Nim, hey Joshi, pleasure meeting you at Tacoma. Thanks for meeting me in the Discord. Trying to associate names, but I think I remember who you are. But yeah, that was good to meet you too, if I'm thinking of the right person. Actually, I don't think there's anyone at Tacoma that I didn't enjoy talking to, so there's definitely a pleasure talking to you no matter what. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the list that Anthony brought. So this one was a mirror. We ended up playing a guard mirror in this game, and this was Anthony, and he was playing... Oh yeah, what's up, Brooke? So this was Anthony's list. It was a combined arms list with Gaunt's Ghost, 2 Rogaldorn Commanders, 1 Tech Priest Engine Seer, 1 unit of Cadian Shock Troops, 4 units of Catachan Jungle Fighters, 2 units of Catachan Heavy Weapons Team with Las Cannons, 1 Exterminator. Hey, I don't know about this one, Anthony. You said that the Plasma, yours doesn't even have sponsons at all, brother. And the Rogaldorn with a twin battle cannon? I don't know. That's not what you ended up playing it with. Anyway, the unit of Ratlings, a Rogaldorn battle tank, and Canis Rex. He was one of, I think, like 3 guard players who brought Canis Rex to this event. But anyway, this was an interesting list. I don't think this is a super optimized list coming out from Anthony, but it is interesting. I think having the 3 Rogaldorns and then Canis Rex is like altogether just like a lot of pressure that a lot of people just won't be able to deal with. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people need to understand about playing into like a bunch of units that do a lot of damage that you can't really deal with is how do you play without dealing with them? And the answer tends to come in a couple of different ways. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the mission that we were playing. And this one was Mission O, which is Terraform Crucible of Battle, and we played this one also on Games Workshop Layout 1. Okay. So the big thing about Terraform is it's a game that, or it's a mission that relies a lot. It gives you a lot of benefits to going first. And the big reason for that is as you leave your deployment zone and you're like, okay, I'm going to go terraform, you don't end up scoring it nearly as hard as you do on as you did in Pariah Nexus. But the big reason why Terraform tends to promote going first is because on turn 1, you don't have a lot to do, right? Most opponents are good enough that they will only give you like 1 or 2 units to shoot at all, and everything else besides that is just going to be like a little other piece or like they're bait pieces that you sometimes see just out in the open. So you should not have a lot of opportunities to kill your opponent's army in any meaningful way without getting a massive clackback. And even though you're not going to be scoring Terraform on turn 1, the fact that you can spend your first turn going out, terraforming some things, and doing them in a way that's relatively safe, your opponent then has to spend, if they want to like stop you from doing that, they have to spend actions on the bottom of 1 when they instead generally want to be spending that time killing your skirmishing units, killing the things that you have put in the midboard, and counterstaging you. So they generally don't have the same kind of units available to do both of those things. They usually have to pick one or the other, and so they're going to be scoring a couple of points on Terraform right out the bat, going first. Okay, so this one, what do I remember about this game? What did Anthony do with the 3rd Dorn? I think he put one of them in reserve. I think. But I remember Canis was like somewhere in here, and then he just had like Catachan. There's like a unit here, 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 and here, or something like that. And then like the Catachan weapon squads were something like this and this at the very beginning. The Exterminator was here, and of course the Cadians were on the backfield. And one of the big things about this game is trying to understand like how I can create enough pressure. My biggest goal is generally like if you are going to play Terraform, you need to build an advantage, because even going second, like both players are going to be expecting to get like 40-ish primary. It's really hard to keep someone to less than about like 35 primary on Terraform. So the biggest thing for me was I recognized that my game plan in this game was going to rely on not killing the things that are difficult to kill. Like, I don't really want to spend time shooting at Rogel Thorns. I don't really want to spend a ton of time shooting at Canis if I don't have to. The thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kill all of Anthony's, like, little idiots. I'm trying to kill all the Catachan. I'm trying to kill all the Catachan heavy weapon squads. I would love to kill the Engine Seer if I get access to it. I want to make sure that if Anthony draws like action secondaries or ones where he needs to like be on objectives or auto see me, he's going to have to do it with an entire Rogel Dorn instead of doing it with 10 idiots of his army. I want to make sure that anything that Anthony has to do to score points, he's going to spend a massive part of his army in order to do it. And in order to do that, one of the big things that I did at the very beginning of the game was, because I went first, I took, I think it was a Chimera, it might have been a Taurox, I don't remember. It came out here, and the Khazarkan hopped out, and because Anthony had taken his, like, one of the units of Catachan, and they just, like, come out to about here, and I think there was another one, like, here, and then there was the heavy weapon squad, my goal was to try and kill both of these in order to try and make sure that these pieces were just dead. I was going to trade a transport and Khazarkan in order to kill some of his action monkeys, to kill some of his screens, to kill some of the things that he's going to use to play, like, the finer points of the game. And I think I killed like almost all the Catachan and like 2 of the heavy weapon squads, something like that. But ultimately that was kind of like the general game plan. And then on turn 2, oh, this must have been a Taurox over here, because on turn 2 I had a Chimera like here, and their job was, there's a Catachan unit here, and there's like a Catachan unit, something like this. These Chimeras, their jobs were to go out, kill this, and kill this. Just make sure that I am trading my Chimeras for all of his OC on the board, make sure that he doesn't have anything to do any of these counter terraforms. And I did a pretty good job with that. I think by the time we go into turn 3, I think Anthony has like a unit of Catachan that he had done reinforcements on in reserve. I think it's his only like unit of guys still going on. So at this point, I get into so Anthony's like starting to come out on the board by this point, but the big thing is there's like a Rogel Dorn, something like this. The Exterminator had like come out to like poke its head out, and then there was like another Rogel Dorn, something like this, and then Canis Rex was over here. And at this point, we hadn't really spent any time having our tanks shoot at other tanks. They were shooting at like transports, they were shooting at infantry, and what I ended up doing is I had like Rogel Dorn, Leman Russ, like Leman Russ. This, my entire tank fleet was going to shoot at Canis Rex, something like this. And at the same time, I had this unit of 20 or 20 Krieg right in here. And I even told Anthony this like in the moment. I was very confident that this setup that he had with these 2 Rogel Dorns was probably going to lose him the game. Because I still had enough extra units. I had a unit of Khazarkan that ended up like sitting on this objective basically the entire game. And this unit of 20 Krieg was going to come out and it was going to slingshot itself. What I mean by that is this unit was going to move 9 to wherever it is in here, and it's going to charge just this Rogel Dorn. But in so doing, when whatever shape, it's like something like this unit of Krieg, I'm only going to have to base some number of guys on the Rogel Dorn here, which means that as they move, I think I rolled like a 7, all of this is now going to move 7 inches this way, because the only thing that I am bound to when I'm making this move is if I'm not capable of basing, I just need to end it closer. And then we determined that because I was here, wherever this was, it was within 7 inches of this tank, because you have a 3-inch pile-in and a 3-inch consolidate, and as long as your unit is, or as long as the model is not capable of basing closest enemy unit, it again just needs to move closer. So these guys can basically take their 3-inch pile-in like this, and then their 3-inch consolidate like this, and I was able to get like one guy in here able to touch both this tank and this tank. And the main reason why this was really good, or there's a couple of reasons why this is really good. So the first one is that this tank, a Rogel Dorn, has like a lot of blast weapons. So I turn off 2 of the guns that are really important to actually shoot all my infantry. I'm able to get a bunch of OC of Krieg kind of strung out like this, and if depending on how Anthony actually starts shooting, I can potentially take guys out of combat. Like if he shoots in the wrong order, I can, like if he shoots this one first, I can kill off the one guy here, so that this tank is not eligible to shoot at the Krieg at all. He did it in the right order, because I didn't get caught by that. But I turn off a lot of the guns from the Dorns, I force him to deal with it, and I guarantee that Anthony is not going to hold this objective for like at least 2 more turns. So at this point, I think the game is pretty much wrapped up. I have like a unit of Khazarkan here, this unit of Krieg is spread out here. I end up killing Canis Rex on this turn. And everything seems to be going relatively well. I have a unit of Khazarkan kind of hiding here, and that was the other thing, is by tying all of this up, these guys are no longer able to go this way, and they're not going to be able to get a line on these Khazarkan. At this point, Anthony and I have a bit of a conversation, and Anthony says, okay, I have Gaunt's Ghost, I have 1 unit of Catachan in reserve, I need to make something crazy happen. And the plan that he was looking at was I had this unit of Khazarkan over here on this objective, and the plan that he was looking at was between Gaunt's Ghost and a unit of Catachan over here. If he could shoot and make charges with these guys, he could take me off of the objective, this objective over here. And I told him straight up, and I still think this is true, Anthony, I don't think that's a very good idea. On the one hand, if you come in, I'm going to overwatch the Catachan with a Rogel Dorn. So your 20 OC that you're going to be trying to charge with is actually like, 5 to 10 OC, depending on how many of them are actually going to live. Also, if you shoot at my Khazarkan at all in order to reduce the amount of OC I have on the objective, you are now going to take what is supposed to be a 9-inch charge, and you're going to turn it into a 10 or an 11-inch charge. And he's like, that makes a lot of sense, Josh. I understand what you're trying to say. However, I need to make something crazy happen. We're going to go for it. And so then he takes like Gaunt's Ghost and he shoots and he kills like a couple of the Khazarkan out of this unit. And then the Catachan shoot and they kill a couple of Khazarkan in this unit. And so we measure it and we go, all right, Anthony, after your shooting, you now have a 10-inch charge with both these units. He rolls Gaunt's Ghost and he hits the 10-inch charge. He rolls the Catachan, they also hit a 10-inch charge. I'm just sitting there like, oh god, like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, this is a game I thought was super locked up. I didn't think there was a way for Anthony to come back, and then he hits both the 10-inch charges, and I go, oh no, am I suddenly in a position where I can't do anything? And the other thing that I realized I forgot to do on this turn was I had 1 CP that I had intended on this, after this Krieg charge, to use Inspired Command to give them +1 save. And that makes them way more durable against these Rogel Dorns, but I forgot to do it. And what I ended up doing was, because I only had the one CP, I ended up spending it to, there's a Dorn like here or whatever, it overwatched the Catachan. And by the time we actually get to a shooting phase, I go like, oh god, I think I messed up, because as Anthony starts shooting, he kills like 18 of the Krieg or something, which is way more of the Krieg than I had expected to die at this point. So not only did I make a mistake, but Anthony also hits the 2 10-inch charges to make the game reasonably close. Turns out I had built up enough of a lead over the course of this game that it didn't really matter. By making sure that Anthony was scoring low on primary for the first couple of turns, even though Anthony ended up having a really good turn 5, where he had 14 on Terraform, 3 on a Challenger card, and then 7 points of secondary, for 24 points in the bottom of 5, it still wasn't enough. And it still really comes down to the fact that this slingshot charge coming out with the Krieg ended up tying up his Rogel Thorns. They were not able to get out on the board. And I think the other thing is that a lot of people, when they're playing up against Guard, like, I can understand why Anthony had a pretty good event overall, because these Dorn, if you just have 3 Dorns and Canis Rex, a lot of people just go, I have to deal with that. I have to kill the things that can kill me. And there's some armies that are correct about that. But one of the biggest things I've learned about playing Guard is that the games that I lose Like the ones where my opponents just like shoots at my tanks are generally ones that I'm going to win because one, I mean their toughness 10, 11, 12 and a 2-up save, and so a lot of stuff will bounce off them. Two, my tanks shoot harder, and so my tanks generally get the first volley off, so I can kill their anti-tank first. So they either like blow me out of the water because they killed all of my damage in ways that isn't supposed to happen, or they kill all the rest of my army, and the rest of my army is suddenly not strong enough to actually play the board, and all I'm doing is playing with these tanks, which is a massive issue. And so with that, there it is. So at the end of the game, because I was able to hold Anthony's primary down to lower than mine, scoring all 50 points, I scored all but 2 of my secondary. I tried to make sure that Anthony wasn't scoring all of his secondary early on. I was able to keep him relatively down on points. I ended up winning this one 98-79. But Anthony had a great attitude about the game the whole time. He had a couple 10-inch charges, which made the game really cool and really fun. So I mean, I still had a great time, and I know Anthony did fairly well for the rest of the event. So props to Anthony for coming in. By this point, I don't remember what I told him what my record was. I can check right now. So my record in tournaments in 10th edition in the mirror, I'm currently 17-1 in the guard mirror. The only person I've lost to is Scott Cairns, also aka Mortar Strike in the Discord. So that means at this time I was 15-1 in the bracket in the mirror. So Anthony made it 16-1. Anyway, it was a fun game. He was a fan of the channel, and one of the things that I have learned over the years, or over the past like year or so, is that if people like recognize me when we're about to play a game, it is a massive advantage for me, because a lot of times what people will do, and I talked about this like with Wesley in the games that, or in the most recent interview. Maybe it wasn't the most recent interview, but one of the interviews I did with Wesley St. Hines is if people think you're good, they will oftentimes play less aggressive, because they're like, oh, if I play aggressive and make a mistake, I'm going to lose. When in reality, most of the time, if you're supposed to play aggressive, like you're supposed to play aggressive. It doesn't matter if your opponent is better or worse than you. You're supposed to just play the game plan of your army. Yeah. Promise not to bomb 10-inch chargers every single time. Look, as long as it doesn't happen most of the time, if either one of them had gone off, it probably flips the points. The fact that you just got the second one is just adding insult to injury at that point. At that point, it's like, oh god, my objective, suddenly things are going through. I think the biggest thing that I was like terrified of was that you were going to be able to slingshot, and I don't know if you were capable of it. But when you had like Gaunt's Ghost here, and whatever my unit of Kazakin was like here, I remember I had like tanks, something like this. My biggest fear was not even, because I knew that like if you hit the 10-inch charge, you're going to take this objective from me. The fear was actually, or the bigger fear was that you were going to take the objective from me if you hit it, but that Gaunt's Ghost would slingshot around and touch this tank. That was my real big fear. When you hit the 10-inch charge, I was like, oh god. I don't know if you're looking for it or not, but that was one of the things that you should have been looking for to try and do. Because if you did that, then like these tanks, because I think they came out the next turn, or I don't remember. I don't remember if like your Dorns ever actually shot at my Lehman Rosses the entire game. There was like the one over here that like your Rogaldorn killed, but I think that was like the only one that, like the only time your tank shot at my tanks. Anyway, that's all that. It was a good game. Anthony was a great guy. Got to talk to his dad a little bit as well, who also seemed like a very chill dude. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the next one. Yeah, edit, crop. Okay. Our third opponent was Steve Trimble, and I did not see this before. Uh-oh, stinky poopy, haha. This was Death Guard Mortarian's Hammer. It's a pretty normal looking Mortarian's Hammer list. If you've played against Death Guard Mortarian's Hammer, you will not be surprised by most of the things that we're including. It is 2 Lords of Contagion, 1 Lord of Virulence with the Tendrilless Emissions enhancement, which is gives you Lone Up, and I think it's like a 3-inch aura. I think it's 3-inch aura of reroll ones to wound for some subset of your weapons. I don't know exactly. 3 units of Death Strike Terminators. 3 fetid bloat drones with heavy blight launchers. 2 Myphitic Blight Haulers. 3 Plague Burst Crawlers. And 3 units of 10 Poxwalkers. It's basically just 3 of all of the good data sheets, right? Like, that is what this is. The only thing that I think was like a choice that he made at some point was like, do I want 3 Myphitic Blight Haulers or do I want like extra Lord of Contagion? Do I want an extra unit of Death Shroud Terminators? Like, what exactly does he want to play with this? And this one, Steve and I played this one on Mission H, which is Supply Drop, Hammer and Anvil. We played it on Games Workshop Layout 8, which is has changed a little bit. It used to have like this like weird like flower shape with all the 4x6s in the middle. That has changed, which is a good thing. That was a horrible layout before. But now it's interesting because one of the big things about this, I've talked about this before several times, but whoever controls this shooting lane is like in charge of the game. And there's like a small spot, there's like a triangle of being able to hide, something like that, because there's only like so harsh of an angle you can draw here. There's only so harsh of an angle you can draw here. So you really just have like small spot to stage, and then it's just shooting down this line. Okay. This one was an interesting game because the last time that I played a similar mission, I was playing up against Timothy Grant at an RTT, and he was playing a similar army. And on turn 1, the 3 Plague Burst Crawlers just killed like 14 guys out of my Cadian Command Squad and the Cadian Shock Troops, which meant that I had to kill like all of the Cadians. And it not only just like killed my ability to screen my backfield because I just ran out of models, but the other big thing is that it turned off my ability to give extra orders with Ursula Creed, because sometimes you want to use the 2 CP strat to be like, hey, give orders to tanks, and when you don't have a regiment unit close to Creed, you can't do that. Or at least you can't do it for free, and she doesn't have the 24-inch range on the orders. And that was my biggest fear. So this one being supply drop, I was not happy in this matchup. Either way, if I went first, then my opponent is just threatening to score a 15-point primary at the end of the game, so I have to just run at him and make sure he can't do that. The other thing that I was not happy about is if I went second, and Steve just went, here we go, 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, how many Cadians do we kill? If he kills enough of them, I also just kind of lose the game relatively early because he's got 3 units of Death Shroud Terminators, which can deep strike 6 inches away, and because it's Mortarian's Hammer, he just like paints my Cadians, makes them stinky, and suddenly the Death Shroud can just like pop up in my backfield, and I will not have the things to screen. So that was like the main thing, is I did not feel great about this game going first or going second. So that was one of the big things going in. This game, I felt pretty good about how it started. The big things that I was looking at were, at the very beginning, there was like, I don't remember if there was like a Myphitic Blight Hauler, but there was like one here and like a Bloat Drone here. And I brought out like the Rogel Thorn and like a Liebman Russ, something like this. And I was able to like do a bunch of damage here and here. I think this one went down to 4 and this one went down to 3, whatever little drones they were. And I did some damage to him on turn 1. And I was at least able to sticky my home at the very beginning, which doesn't matter a ton on supply drop because you don't score it. It's not worth anything. But my biggest fear was that like the Death Shroud Terminators, if I let up the screen, because like the Cadian Shock Troop unit was like spread out like this, if I let up the screen and the Death Shroud Terminators come back, I'm in a really bad spot. So when this guy came out, I ended up overwatching him to death. I ended up overwatching a lot of things to death. The other big thing that I managed to do was I had a Chimera, something like this, and the Lord of Virulence had like popped out here in order to help shoot something. And the Chimera, or maybe it was a Taurox, whatever, came out over this way, dropped Khazra in here, and I was able to kill the Lord of Virulence relatively early on. And this is really big in the matchup because the Lord of Virulence gives the reroll all hits against a target and also reroll ones to wound with a bunch of different stuff. And because of that, he basically doubles the damage output of Plague Risk Crawlers and Fetid Bloat Drones with heavy blight launchers because they just are rerolling all hits with lethal hits against a target that they pick. So I was able to kill that, which felt really good. The problem for this game came around in, I think it was turns 2 or 3, where I had a Hellhound, like here on this objective, that had gotten charged by Death Shroud Terminators and lived, which is not super surprising. That happens reasonably often. But I also had a Taurox that was here, which Death Shroud Terminators I think had like piled into, something like that, or consolidated into. And I ordered both of them +1 leadership in both spots. And what happened was I just wanted to fall them back. I wanted to make sure that they could be there, they could stand on these objectives, score me some points. This one rolled a 6. And this one also rolled a 6. And I was thinking, great, I passed the leadership on both of them. But because it was Death Shroud Terminators have a War Gear option where they each have -1 leadership, which meant that this 6 did not pass, and this 6 did not pass. And this is really bad because when I went to fall them back, you have to take a Desperate Escape if you're battle shocked. And this one died. And this one also died. And so I ended up just losing 200 points of my army to battle shocks, which was horrible because it definitely cost me like at least 5 points of primary on this objective because the Hellhound was just going to be here and be annoying and score me 1 more turn of primary on the next turn. I think it also cost me 5 points of primary immediately because I was going to be OC4 against the OC3 of the Terminators that were on this objective. So it ended up costing me 5 points of primary. Failing that, it also cost me 200 points of my army to battle shocks. And so just losing a whole bunch of stuff relatively quickly, like for free, was very bad. But the game was still kind of in hand. I realized around like battle round 3 or 4 that the entire game was going to come down to how do I prevent Steve from scoring 15 points at the end? Because remember, this will disappear, and this will disappear, and so it's going to be this one at the end of the game. The middle is going to be the one where you have to control in order to win. And so I do all of my stuff. We're setting up. I'm not scoring a lot of primaries. Steve's not scoring a lot of primaries. Steve scored 5 points of primary on turn 3, and he had not scored any primary on turn 4. Okay, so we get into a position where, as we are going into top of 5, I'm up some number of points, but I have a Leman Russ tank somewhere in here. I have a unit of Cadians with Creed tagged in combat with with Death Shroud Terminators that are over here. I had the remnants of a Death Corps of Krieg unit here. Did I have anything else on the board? I think that was it. Steve only had a couple of units left. He had a Fetid Blight Drone on a couple of wounds that was here. And he had a Plague Risk Crawler, which had come back to hold his home objective in order to make sure he can get Defense Stronghold. And I think to myself, I'm pretty sure Plague Risk Crawlers are OC4. I don't know why I thought this. I'm not sure if they used to be OC4 in the index. Maybe that changed at some point. I don't know if at some point someone had told me they were OC4 and they were wrong. But whatever it was, I thought it was OC4. And my game plan here was that this Leman Russ was close enough to touch this objective. I don't remember, however far it was. And if my Leman Russ is OC4, then it doesn't matter if this comes and touches the objective because it's not enough OC. He would need to kill a Leman Russ, and he'd just need to kill my Leman Russ. And then if this Plagueburst Crawler, when it spends 1 CP to go through walls and touches this objective, it will out OC my Leman Russ because it's OC4. But it's not OC4. Let me confirm that. I'm pretty confident that, at least now, I don't know if they used to be, Plagueburst Crawlers are OC3. And there's no way for Death Guard to improve them. Okay, this comes back in just a moment. So my game plan was with this, this, and this. These Death Shroud Terminators, I didn't really care about them. The biggest thing for me was that if I can wrap them like this, they're never going to be able to charge and then pile in and consolidate and put OC on this point. Which means they're functionally a dead unit. Like, they don't do anything at the end of the game. Okay? The other plan was that this unit of Krieg was going to help, like, be this part of it, and also be over here in order to kill this Bloat Drone, because the Bloat Drone is going to contribute damage, it's going to contribute OC at the end of the game. I was going to try and do both things. So, and this Leman Russ was going to come out. I was going to use, what's it called? Flexible command in order to make Creed give this order. The game plan was the Leman Russ was going to come out, and it was going to be here, and it was going to shoot, and then as soon as the Plagueburst Crawler, if it lived, I was going to overwatch it, or if he chose not to move it, I was going to pop smoke, and I would probably live. The other thing is that this unit of Krieg was going to pop out. It was going to put 2 melta-guns here, shoot at this guy, and then be part of this screen to make sure that the Death Shroud Terminators weren't moving and weren't contributing OC at the end of the game. So a couple of things went wrong. The first thing was that these Krieg, when they popped out, whiffed. They did 0 damage. And this was only on like 3 wounds or something. Didn't do anything. I was out of CP, so I couldn't chuck a grenade. Okay, so that went wrong. So that means that the Krieg had to charge into this to make sure it couldn't do any actions. So this ended up being a little bit more, something like that. Either way, it turned out to be enough where the Death Shroud didn't matter what they did; they were never touching the objective in the middle. Anyway, this Leman Russ coming out here was going to be OC4, which meant that I was always going to out-OC one of the vehicles that Steve was going to put on the objective. But you guys have probably already figured out what the issue with this is. If I can give this Leman Russ an order, it doesn't matter if I am OC3 or OC4. He needs to put 2 vehicles on or 1 vehicle and kill the Leman Russ. Which means that this Leman Russ can be take aim, which means it has +1 ballistic skill. So it'll be hitting on, instead of 4s, re-rolling against this target because it's on an objective, it'll be hitting on 3s re-rolling against that target because it's on an objective. Okay, this matters a lot. So I go ahead, the Leman Russ goes out here, shoots over this way, and shoots at the Plagueburst Crawler, and I think the Plagueburst Crawler was full HP at this point, and let me double check. A Plagueburst Crawler has 12 wounds. Okay. I shoot the Leman Russ, and I end up getting all 3 Melta shots through. Or I get 3 of the 4 Melta shots through the save. And I roll a 4, a 2, and a 2, which is 8, and 12 minus 8 puts it down to 4. I think I do like stubber damage as well. But regardless, at some point, like, this Plagueburst Crawler is on 4 wounds, which means that it's bracketed, and my opponent needs to spend a CP to auto-pass it to make sure that he has enough OC, or to have the units to even try to kill me off at the middle objective. Okay. The next thing that happens is we draw the cards, and we look at the game, and the only way for Steve to win this game is he needs to get the 15 points of primary. He needs to get the middle objective. There's no other thing that he can do. There's not the secondaries. There's not the challenger card. If he gets all of the challenger, or if he gets a challenger and like all of his secondaries, he'll get 11 and that'll lose by 10. He'll lose by 10. No. He'll lose by 7 if he gets all the cards but doesn't score the primary at the end. So what ends up happening is this Leman Russ, when he auto passes it and he goes, I'm going to move it out this way. I go ahead and overwatch it. Like, this falls back, touches the objective, and it's on like 3 wounds at this point. And my big worry, my thoughts are, this Plagueburst Crawler is unlikely to kill the Leman Russ on its own. And if this comes out and touches, it can't shoot. So bringing this out does not win him the game. And this guy is already on 4 wounds or whatever it is that it actually is on. When he moves it, I go ahead and declare an Overwatch. And I end up doing very little damage, but regardless of what I do, we get down to the stubbers, and he's on like 2 wounds, and I go, and so he's like, okay, so this should be wrapped up, and I go, you never know, I have stubbers, I roll 5 stubbers, 5 lethal hits off of the stubbers, and he fails 1 of them, which when he was on 2 wounds, puts him down to 1 wound remaining. Which means that when this bloat drone and this PBC are touching the objective, he has 6 OC on the point. And I lose because this PBC is on 1 wound. It was a really cool game. I think a couple of things. There's a couple of spots here at the very end where I could have potentially bailed myself out. So the first one is I could have overwatched this bloat drone. Okay, and if I overwatch the bloat drone, then he needs to have the Plagueburst Crawler kill me, and at this point, it is already bracketed. I think he's also out of CP. I don't remember if he had like rerolls or tank shark or anything, but he would just have like 2 las cannon shots or 2 entropy cannon shots and the like mortar to try and kill my Leman Russ, which is very unlikely to actually do anything. I am almost definitely living from that because it's bracketed. So that's the first thing, or that's one of the things that I could have done to bail myself out. The other one that I could have done to bail myself out, like I said, this Russ does not need to be +1 OC. It can be +1 ballistic skill. Is +1 ballistic skill enough to get this 1 wound off of the PBC? Who knows? Dice do funny things. But it is more likely that I do 1 more wound. Maybe that 1 extra battle cannon shot that I get through, like maybe 1 more battle. Exactly. What if 1 more battle cannon shot goes through the save? Like, what if he fails 1 more save because I'm +1 ballistic skill? That can also be the game. So I basically I think I made 2 mistakes here at the very end, which allowed Steve to win by 5 points. He gets his 15 primary, and let me go ahead and show the scoreboard for this one, which is right here. I end up losing this one by 5 points because Steve gets his 15 at the very end. Now, it's really interesting because as it turns out, Steve wins. Steve wins the entire event. And he ends up going 8-0 officially, and then I don't remember who he played in the shadow round, but he played 9 rounds and won all of them. Mine, I don't know what the actual scores of the other one, but mine was incredibly close, and so I was 1 wound off of not only making top 32, because I was going to make it into the upper bracket if the rest of the tournament goes the same way, but I was also 1 wound away from denying Steve Trimble the victory of the Tacoma Open. So I didn't know that at the time, but it was pretty cool to see that at the end of it, the guy that I lost to by 1 wound and I was putting a really good game into end up being the guy who won the entire event. So that was a really cool position to be in, and I really enjoyed that overall. So I ended up losing to Steve. He ends up going on to, like I said, win the entire Tacoma Open. Yeah. I could have won this game, which feels cool. I made a couple of mistakes. I think Steve made a couple of mistakes. Um, a couple of dice rolls here and there could have like changed the outcome of the game as well. Yeah, I don't really know what more to say than that. One wound would have changed this. I could have been in a position to win the entire event. I don't want to say that, but like I could have done even better than I did if I had just rolled slightly better, or if I had made like one decision different over the course of the game, which is really cool. Anyway, I don't want to just say that over and over again. That was round 3 going up against Steve. All right, let me see. I'm getting pinged about something. What is this? Oh, cool. So people played some games. Okay. Okay. So that was that. That was 1, 2, 3. That's Steve. We can get rid of these. Okay. Let's talk about our next game. So after day 1, I ended up going to dinner with the Deep Strike gang, a bunch of cool guys who play mostly south of Seattle. They're kind of spread between like Tacoma and they are south of Seattle, like Auburn, Kent, if anybody's familiar. But I went to dinner with them, and then I came back and played round 4 up against Logan and his warhost Eldar. And warhost, the big thing about it is all of your battle focus tokens basically just say +1 inch. So instead of the +2 inches, it's +3 inches. Instead of D6 reactive move when you get shot, it's a D6 +1 reactive move. Star Engines, I think, is D6 +3, whatever it is. So it's all just, everything just moves an extra inch whenever you use a battle focus token, which is a big deal. It gives you a lot of important breakpoints. Let's go ahead and take a look at his list. This is Avatar of Cain. He had Eldrad Ulthron, Fuegan, and Lycus. 1 unit of Storm Guardians, 1 Wave Serpent, 1 Falcon, 1 unit of 10 Fire Dragons, 1 unit of 5 Fire Dragons, 1 unit of Rangers, 1 unit of Swooping Hawks, 1 Warlock Skyrunner, 2 units of 5 Warp Spiders, and then 2 Wraith Lords. Let's take a look. Let's go grab the thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Crop. Set that. Let's do that. Boom. 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 Okay. Oops. Okay. Logan and I played this one on... This was Mission N, which is Hidden Supplies, Crucible of Battle. So what that means is that this doesn't exist. Instead, we had objective something like... They were basically like this. They were not touching either Ruin, which may or may not be what they're supposed to be, but like they're not touching either Ruin, so they're just completely out in the open. One of the big things about like all these mats is like they're very rarely like perfectly 16 by 44, and so sometimes if like when you measure 30 from one side or the other, it doesn't quite line up. But this is what we end up settling on. And what happened in this game? Yeah. I think this is one of those games where my opponent was just scared. Like, to put it simply, for a good chunk of the game, there was like a Falcon and a Wave Serpent, or maybe the other way around, here and here, and then there was like another one here, and they just stayed really far back. One of the big things that Logan needed to do was he had, I think it was a Wave Serpent that had Fuegan and the Fire Dragons in it. It just needs to be here, right? Like, whichever one of these transports it was needed to just go like here, like right away. But what they end up doing is like they both end up going like this way, which even with Star Engines gets you to like here, and you can drop guys out. And what I did was I was just like, well, this tank and these tanks, you can't get to them. Like, I'm not allowing you to get to them, and because I'm playing Khazarkin and I have Chimeras with heavy flamers, I'm just going to kill the rest of your stuff. Like, I'm going to kill your Rangers, I'm going to kill your Swooping Hawks, I'm going to kill the Warp Spiders. Like, they just aren't going to get to play the game. And I think that's honestly it. Is it just took Logan too long to bring his forces to bear, and because of that, I held him to a 0 primary on turn 2, and then 5, 5, and 5. Like Logan was only able to score 15 points of primary on this one. Let's see. Is there anything else? Logan also, like, one of the big things about playing with Eldar is you need to really understand like how much damage all of your units do. Because I have like a unit of 20 Deathcore of Krieg over here, and at some point the Swooping Hawks hop out over this way and shoot, and they kill like 5 guys or something like that, and then they die, right? You can't just give over Swooping Hawks or Warp Spiders or whatever. They can't die for free. If they die for free, Eldar is losing really, really hard. The other time where Logan did something like that is he had whatever transport it was here. It came out and it was like here. And at this point, I had already brought out like a lot of my army. Or I had brought out enough of my army to fight, and I had like Leman Russ, and like was the Dorn. I think the Dorn was over here, and when Fuegan and the Fire Dragons hop out here, he declares, I'm going to put 10 Fire Dragons and Fuegan into this Leman Russ. And as soon as I hear that, in my head, I go like, sick. Like, I'm gonna let's do some unit crunch. Okay. All right, unit crunch. 10 Fire Dragons on 3s. I think it's strength 9, 4, and D6. I don't remember if they were all within Melta 3, but let's just assume they are. 1, 13, 2 up, 5 up, and maybe I'm in cover. I don't remember. And reroll all failed hits. Reroll all failed wounds. Reroll, and then there's like damage. Okay, we will not even put in the reroll damage. 10 Fire Dragons without Fuegan, without rerolling damage, kill a Leman Russ 82% of the time. Okay, that is incredibly likely. If I pop smoke, what if I make this hit on 4s? If I pop smoke, I'm still dying 71% of the time. And this isn't even including Fuegan's damage. So I was fully expecting when Fuegan and all the Fire Dragons came out, I was going to lose this tank. I was also expecting to lose this tank. And I just lost this one. So the fact that I end up only losing 1 tank on that turn basically ended the game, because I was able to kill Serpent, and I think the Avatar was also like here. He also hit like a 10-inch charge on me, but I killed that. I killed most of the Fire Dragons aside, and I killed the Avatar on that turn. So like as soon as that happened, there's just no more threat to my tank line, and they can just stand on objectives and make sure I score. But that's the biggest thing with Eldar, is making sure you understand like the, what do you call it? The damage that you actually do, making sure that you can control the game. And realistically, like, even though the score on this one from Logan was a closer score overall, I actually think that the game that Dustin played was a better one overall, just because I just shut down almost everything that Logan was trying to do on primary, and he just was not able to play the middle of the board. So I don't know what else there is to say about this one. It's just you can't give over units for free. Logan did that like twice. He not only like gave over units for free, but was not in a spot to follow it up. Like if you're going to put units out in the open, they need to either accomplish a goal, or you need to be ready to trade back for them when they die. Ideally, you're doing both at the same time, and that was something that Logan hadn't really figured out in our game, and hopefully he will get better at doing so, and we'll get another chance to play against him some other time. But for now, oops, yeah. So this one 90-64. Like I said, I held Logan to 15 primary over the entire game. He scored almost all of his secondary, which was great. But just like you can see, like even here, extend battle lines, like I had taken his home at this point, so he was not able to control his home objective, so I only scored 2 points on that. And I don't know if he would have scored, like how much of this he actually would have scored, but I just told him, like, look, it's okay, it's the end of the game. It doesn't change the outcome at all. I'm happy to give you the points. So yeah, that was that. Good game against Logan. Chill dude, overall. But he was at his first GT, and I think he'd gotten a little bit lucky with his first couple of rounds to get me so late in the event. Oops, not this one. It's this one. Okay. Okay, so after I played it up against Logan, I ended up getting another guard mirror, and this one was up against Peter and his Recon element guard. So believe it or not, if you look at this, this is in fact a Recon element list. So it's Gaunt's Ghosts, Lord Solar Leontis, a Cadian Command Squad, the Rogaldorn Commander, Tech Priest with a Scare Gas Grenades, 1 unit of 20 Cadian Shock Troops, 1 unit of 10 Kree Combat Engineers, 3 Leominous Demolishers, 1 Scout Sentinel, and a Storm Sword. Yep, you read that right. It is a Storm Sword in Recon Element. So this list is really interesting to me because I think basically this exact list, but in Hammer of the Emperor, is probably the same thing but better. However, Peter clearly has played lots of games with this style of list before. We ended up playing this one on Mission D, which is Scorched Earth Tipping Point, and we played this on Layout 6, as you can see right here. Rogaldorn Commanders are overrated. I guess it depends on how you rate them. They're Raising Rune Lords. They are very good, and you should have one of them in basically every guard list right now. So, kind of just depends on what it is you're trying to do. Anyway, the biggest thing about this is you kind of know right away that the Storm Sword has to go here. This is the only path that it can take to do anything on the board. It does not fit through here. It could go over here, but then like you have really limited firing lanes. Like you can't go into a ton of places with it. But yeah, so my big thing looking at this game was I was going to have the same, what do you call it? The same game plan that I had up against Anthony. I was going to try and play a similar game plan going into Peter. And the biggest thing is I wanted to kill the things that were not tanks. And if you watched the GT after action report that I did playing up against Alex and his Double Thorn combined arms list, there's actually a lot of similarities between the way that I played that game and the way that I played this game. And the big reasons for that are, at the very beginning of the game, Peter had Leominous Demolisher, something like this. Storm Sword was here, Rogaldorn and Leominous Demolisher were also somewhere over here. He had his unit of Death Corps of Krieg Engineers here, ready to either scout forward or scout back, depending on whether he went first or second. And I wanted to kill the Engineers. I wanted to kill the Scout Sentinel. I would love to kill the Engine Seer, but realistically, like this army plays the game with 1, 2, 3 units in the middle of the board for a big part of it. No damage output, no damage blank, no shoot on death, no high AP weapons, trash. I disagree with literally everything you just said. So, it's got a lot of damage output. Damage blank is like, doesn't really matter. Shoot on death also like doesn't come up that much. No native high AP weapons. It has 4 or 6 melt-the-guns, my dude. And then the pulverizer is AP3, right? Like it's a really darn good tank. It is propping up guard as a whole, for sure right now. Anyway, so going here, the biggest thing is my game plan going in was I was going to try and deny Peter his ability to play, his ability to control primary relatively early on. I was going to try and kill his ability to do secondary relatively early on as well. And the way I was going to try and do that was when I saw that the Krieg engineers were over here, I put a Taurox and like a Chimera here ready to go over this way, and I was going to try and trade Kazarkin for the engineers because he only has 1 unit of engineers and I have 3 units of Kazarkin, potentially 4 units of Kazarkin. And when that came out, Peter ended up taking the engineers and hid them basically up against the wall like this. And on my turn, I took the Taurox, came here. I don't remember what I rolled on the advance, but I ended up putting enough guys like this such that I could put like 10 OC on the point, or at least force him to not take +1 save on the engineers. But hopefully I was going to try and kill them. My expectation was I was going to kill like 7 of them between Melt-A-Mine, Grenade, and shooting. I was planning to kill like 7 of them. And what ended up happening was when these Kazarkin popped out and when they shot, I killed the entire unit. And suddenly this unit is just gone. One of the big things about like the Krieg engineers is you only need 1 guy in that unit to have most of the damage output for the unit, because the shotguns don't do a lot. The Sergeant's Flamer is okay, but the 1 guy can still throw a grenade and he can still do the remote mine. So you still do most of the unit all at the same time. But when I just removed it from the board because Peter just failed a bunch of 3-ups, I think he failed 4 out of 5 3-up saves, the unit just died very, very quickly. He even popped the like -1 to hit and the 6-up Feel No Pain stratagem on this unit. So it's supposed to live with a couple of guys, but the fact that it didn't was really big for the game, because it meant that from here on out, Peter would now have to bring out more of his army in order to shoot things. Okay, so that's what happened on this side of the board, and because of that, I ended up basically like cycle charging like the Rogel Dorn that ended up hanging out over here. But on the other side of the board, Peter had his Lemurus Demolishers. One of them was like here, and like one of them was somewhere in here, and these guys just whiffed. I'm not gonna have this discussion with you, Rune Lords. Like, if you think the Rogel Dorn Commander is bad, like, it's not bad. It's not a bad tank. It is the core of a ton of very good players' lists, then they would not be good without it. So, like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Anyway, these Demolishers came out relatively early on. And the big thing that they did is I think they just rolled really low on the number of shots. But the other big thing is this one, when it came out, ended up touching onto this objective, and Leman Russ here, like, overwatched it. I had, like, my Rogel Dorn and, like, Exterminator, something like this, and they shot at this one or do a lot of damage to it. But the biggest thing was that I was trying to stay outside, like, wherever the Storm Sword could go. I did not want my tanks to be getting shot by the Storm Sword. That was the only thing. And so if you remember the game that I played up against Alex, where he just had, like, a Dorn, like, 2 Dorn commanders basically like this, I just didn't want, like, these 2 Dorns to be shooting at anything at the same time. And I just ended up playing a very similar game plan where these guys hung out over here and just traded away. I got these 2 Demolishers and basically lost almost nothing in return. I don't think they actually killed anything between the 2 of them at all, which was kind of surprising, but I was very happy to have that happen. The other big thing that kind of happened this game was, for a while, Peter just had his Storm Sword just hanging out here with his little buddy back here, given this a 4++. And then he had like a Rogel Dorn hanging out over here, and then his last Demolisher was somewhere over here. And because he was like controlling these three, and I did not have the assets remaining over here to deny this objective, I decided fairly quickly, I'm not going to be denying too much primary here. The biggest thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try and make sure that I get my 45. I'm going to get my 10, 10, 10, 10, 15. And I had like a unit of Krieg over here. And from there, I'm just going to make sure that I hold this and this. And then at the very end, I will use my advantage of going second in order to take the lead that way. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's more or less kind of what happened. So I ended up having like a Hellhound and later the Dorn and then these Krieg. Like they all kind of took turns charging this. And one of the big things that I actively decided not to do was there was a turn where I had like Battle Tank, Dorn, and I think the Exterminator had like moved over here, like ran over this way, where I could have taken all of my firepower and put it into the Storm Sword. And I knew that in so doing, I would be flipping the game on whether or not I win just in trying to kill this one model, which I really didn't want to do. I really don't want to spend my entire army like trying to shoot at one model, because if I kill it, awesome, I win. There's no coming back from that. But if I don't, if I leave it on even one wound and it passes a battle shock, it's just going to kill a Rogel Dorn in return. It's just going to kill one of anything it shoots at in return, which is a horrible place to be. And then the Rogel Dorn might pick up a Leman Russ, and the Demolisher might also pick up a Leman Russ. So instead, what I decided to do is just play and just kind of sit in a holding pattern for a while. What's up, Isaac? It's good to see you, man. I heard you had a couple of tough games towards the end there, so hopefully it didn't go too bad. But towards the end of this game, what the biggest thing that happened was I still had my Exterminator here. This guy ended up living the entire game. I just like charged things into it over and over. And I had a Leman Russ Battle Tank around here. And as we get into the last turn of the game, Peter has Gaunt's Ghost hanging out right up against this wall, and he is starting to burn this objective. This is fire. Ooh, spooky fire. It looks like a rose. But all I needed to do, like, we calculated out the rest of the game. I was gonna get my 3 points for behind enemy lines because I had a unit of Kazarkin that had like threatened his home objective at one point. I was going to get my 10 for hold, and then this was going to burn up here. And I was going to get 3 points on defense stronghold here. Okay. I was going to score 15, 21. I was going to score 21 points no matter what. But the question is Peter, if he scores this burn here, we end up tying. If this goes off, we will end up tying. And so what the game came down to was this Leman Russ Battle Tank just had to come out, and it was close enough to touch, and then this Exterminator was close enough to touch, but was not going to be in a position where it could see Gaunt's Ghosts, was, can I kill you? And I needed to kill at least 4 members of Gaunt's Ghosts. And they had +1 OC over here, which meant that they were 12 OC total, and I was putting 6 OC, so I guess I only need to kill 3 of them. But this Leman Russ Battle Tank, we're just going to come out over here and shoot. And yeah, that was the game. It just like, am I going to kill Gaunt's Ghost? So I shot. The Battle Tank actually killed like 2 of them, and then I rolled all the Melta. He tried to take it on Gaunt so that you could use the 5-up invul and potentially save a couple of extra guys, but he didn't. And I ended up winning this game by 5 points at the very end because because I killed Gon's Ghost and I denied the burn. I feel like this is another game where a lot of people go into the game with the expectation that they are going to flip on trying to kill the Storm Sword while it has a 4-up invul. And that's a way to play the game. It is a way to just like win about half of your games, right? But I don't want to do that. I don't want to go in and say, hey, I'm going to win about half of my games just getting into a slugfest with my opponent. I want to be able to find lines where you can win the game without fighting your opponent at all. And I think that's one of the big things that a lot of guard players need to try and figure out, because this was a game where, again, I just wanted to scalpel out this side. I wanted to make sure the 20 Death Core of Krieg on here were never going to be under threat. I wanted to make sure that I was always going to score my 10 points every single time going second. And later, like, this unit even came out and like strung itself out such that it charged and was holding on to both of these. It got shot a bunch of times on the next turn, but I just killed myself out of coherency and made sure that I was going to hold this objective either way. So I think that's one of the big things that a lot of guard players need to kind of figure out is how do you play going second when you don't just want to be in a slugging match with your opponent. Anyway, let me grab the scoreboard for this one. Peter. Here's the scoreboard. So as you can see, like the big things that happened here were the Death Corps or the engineers dying here and losing Peter 5 points relatively early on. Really big deal. And then the burn not going off as well at the end. Another really big deal. So because I was able to get my 15, and I mean, that's how we won. I know Peter actually took down some fairly strong opponents at this event. Let's take a look. Peter, Venner, Griffin Frost is a decent player, but he lost to that one. He beat Alex Shixnadra. I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but he's also a pretty good player from the Rain City Witch Pigeons, which is one of the Seattle clubs as well. So he played a couple people that I knew and actually played some pretty close games with them. So that's also pretty cool. I just want to give props to Peter as well. He's now part of the Discord. I don't remember what his tag in the Discord is, but he is in there. So if you want to find out more about the Recon Stormsword, he's the guy to talk to. Okay. What do I have next? Jeff. Okay. The next game that I played up against was Jeff Cope and his Imperial Knights. And this was one of the many ways that you can play Imperial Knights. It was Canis Rex, 2 Atropos, one of them was Mysterious Guardians, that's Deep Strike, and once per game go into reserves, and another Atropos with the Banner of Macarius Triumphant. I also had 2 Helverins, 2 Warglaves, 1 unit of Breachers, the Rogue Trader Entourage, and a Subductor Squad. So I believe these were joined together, and this was just running around on its own. Okay, let's grab the map for this one. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so this is probably the worst mission in the pack. I have played this game 5 times. A couple of them in person, a couple of them on TTS, and so far in my games, I am 3-2. Okay. However, the more important thing is the person who went first is 5-0. I have not played a game on this map where the person who went second has won. So the first time I played this, I played it into... Who did I play it into? I played it into Donald Plummer and won that one by 3 points. I played this one into... I don't remember his name, but I played it at an RTT. His name is Alan. I played this one into Alan at the Wizard's Keep, and I blew him out of the water. I killed a Tyrannofex, 2 Maleceptors, and almost a second Tyrannofex on the top of 1. And then I played this one into Jeff. I guess that's a spoiler, but I win this one. And then who else did I play this into? I played this. I played this against a couple of buddies on TTS. Well, one of them I didn't really know, but I played this on TTS a couple of times, went second, and just got blown off the board like right away. There's just nowhere to hide, especially against knights, right? Because if you have a knight like here, you just need to touch this point, and now you can see like all that. If you have like a knight like here, you just need to touch, and now you can see all that. And one of the big things is that a Lehman Russ, with your sponson like this, you can't hide a Lehman Russ without touching this terrain piece. You can't hide a knight without touching this terrain piece because they're both slightly more than 4 inches wide, which means that there's just not a lot of room to hide on this board whatsoever. The other thing is this mission is mission R, which is terraform sweeping engagement. And just like I did up against Anthony, if you just go forward and you terraform, 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 your opponent has to spend the game trying to kill you back. They have to just like shoot at you in order to make things work. So, okay. So let's talk about this game. Big thing. So there's the Rogue Trader entourage with the Breachers over here. The Subductors were kind of spread out. I don't remember if they have Infiltrator or not, but they were wherever. There was I think this was a Warglaive, and I ended up going first on this one. Oh yeah, Canis Rex is over here, and then you have Atropos, Warglaive. The one of them is touching this, so it stickies. And then there's like Helverin, something like that. I think that's his entire deployment, or something like that. And so the biggest thing here is I went first, drew no prisoners, and bring it down. And my only real bring it down target is this Warglaive, because I had a Taurox with Kazarkin in here. It scouted like this way, and then it rolled high enough to go boom, boom, drop off guys here within Melta range and also within Melta Mine range. The unit of Subductors was something like here, and then the other guys were here. I had Battle Tank, Hellhound moved to like here, and Krieg moved to here. Terraformed this over here, and I just killed this entire entourage. Like the Chimera also contributed fire, and the Kazarkin killed this guy. So this is 2, this is 1. So I got my bring it down and my no prisoners, and I've already removed. There's how many units? Canis, Atropos, Helverin, Warglaive, Subductors, and the Navy Breachers joined to the Rogue Trader entourage. So that's only 9 units in the entire army that Jeff has. I killed Breachers and a Warglaive to start the game. And that means that there's now only 7 units in Jeff's entire army to do things with. Okay. The other thing is I have gone out and done a ton of terraforming. So I have created a lot of pressure on the board such that Jeff has to come out and give me units in order to counter terraform things. And on his turn, Canis pops out over here, touches onto this objective, and shoots something. He just completely whiffed his shooting. I remember that. And on turn 2, I kill Canis. And and at the same time, over on the other side, both the Trapos just kind of go this way and set up shop like over here. And so we very quickly, like the game becomes, I go this way and Jeff goes this way. And then we just kind of play towards the middle. Which is kind of how like most of my games on this deployment tend to go. Like you just over-index here, go this way. Opponent over-indexes here, goes this way. But one of the other big things is I end up killing the Subductors like here on turn 2. and then I kill a Warglaive, which is here. I think is also turn 2. And so we very quickly get to a point where Jeff has like nothing left in his army. He has 2 Atrapos and 2 Helverins like in his army as everything that can just run around and do things. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. I'm trying to remember. I think one of the most interesting positions in the game is I have a Chimera, which can go here to disgorge guys in order to score big established locusts, or I can use it to try and kill Canis Rex. And I end up needing the damage to kill Canis Rex, which is part of why I use them to kill Canis Rex. But the other thing is just I had like a couple of units of Khazarkin, just like here, or 1 unit of Khazarkin, and it ended up just doing like a bunch of secondaries for me. Like I think they ended up sabotaging. I think they did Locust in their backfield. Oh, disconnected. Reconnecting. Something happened. You guys doing okay over there? Is this still working? Like I think they ended up sabotaging. Well, if we are disconnected, somebody let me know at some point. But anyway, on the turn that Jeff draws, all good. Thank you, Roger. Defense Stronghold, I end up rapid ingressing into Khazarkin here, such that they need to roll a 2 on an advance in order to deny Defense Stronghold by putting enough OC onto the point. So yeah, so that was. Now the audio is like with a delay. I don't know how to fix that. Maybe you can refresh? Because it seems to be okay on my end, and I don't know how to test that. Never mind. If it fixed itself, awesome! We love it when problems fix themselves. So we had the Khazarkin come over here. They ran over onto this one, and this ended up being a fairly big point because they needed to stop a lot of they just needed to go stop like primary from being scored and secondary from being scored. But anyway, as we got to the end of the game, we get to a point where there are 2 units left in the army for Jeff. One of them, this is Sticky. He had 1 Atrapos here, and it was like long enough to like touch this objective and like this point. He had 1 Atrapos here, and I had tied it up with a unit of Krieg that like started over here. They like moved their way, and then they made this charge in order to get Storm Hostile. And we are looking at a point where Jeff is expecting to score 4 times 3, because he's going to score this objective, and this objective, basically just for playing the game. Like, he'll kill my OC off the point, and this one is Sticky. So he's going to get 12 points there. And then he's going to get he's going to get this Terraform, he'll get it twice, and this one, he'll also get twice because I have not been able to counter Terraform every single time I've tried to counter Terraform. I've needed the extra activation in order to kill something. So he's looking at, what is this? 12 plus 4. He's looking at 16 primary. And I'm at 89. And he's also going to get a Challenger card. So he's going to get another 3 on that one, and it's all based on the number of cards that he's able to draw. So his first 2 cards are Engage in all fronts, Engage, and because he's only got 2 units left, and one of them needs to be touching this point, he cannot score that one, because if this leaves the point, he is not going to be scoring 4 points on primary, and the other thing that he needs to do is it's also only worth 1 point because he only has 2 units left to be in 2 table quarters. So he ends up redrawing that one. Or the other one he has is behind, which he can maybe do with this one. like if it falls back, but then you're very much in a position where you can't necessarily like, you're not going to be able to do any actions. You're not going to necessarily be holding primary off of it. So he ends up not being able to do this one. This ends up being a 0. And the other one he draws, after getting rid of engage, he draws sabotage. And the big thing here is because this guy here is in engagement, it can't do any actions. So the only one that he can choose to do is this one here. And then at that point, he is looking at a spot where he is only scoring 3. And overall, he ends up taking his 3 on sabotage. He gets his 16 on primary, and he gets his 3 on the challenger card, which means that he only scores 87 points, leaving him 2 points behind. And where is it? Let me go grab it. Jeff. So this was a close game overall. The big thing of going first and then just preventing Jeff from scoring a lot of secondaries, the fact that I was able to get this Rapid Ingersoft to deny Defend Stronghold, that changes the outcome of the game. The fact that he doesn't draw any like scoreable cards here is big, but I had turned off like most of his actions. Did I charge the Kazarkin? I don't remember. But either way, I turn off all of his ability to score secondary cards at the end of the game. Because of that, he's not able to score basically anything. And that ended up being the big difference in actually winning the game towards the end. So I ended up taking this one down. Jeff was a very strong player. And I think he did pretty well at this event as well. But I was very happy that I was able to win my the one Knights game that I've gotten so far. So yeah, so we did get that one. And that means we're almost done, guys. We only have 2 games left to talk about. Okay, so here's that. Let's go ahead and close this one out. Okay. All right, so after Jeff, we ended up playing up against Elijah, and Elijah was playing Leagues of Votann. Now, I have played Elijah before. I played him at an RTT. I think it's in Tukwila or Issaquah, somewhere east of Seattle. And at the time, he was playing Orcs with Green Tide, and he had a lot of guys. I killed his tank, but like one of his units of tank busters right off the bat, and then the game basically ended from there. But this time, he's playing Leagues of Votann, which he told me was in preparation for a Teams event coming up. So he had a Brocure Iron Master with the Appraise and Glare. So that's, you pick an objective and counts as having bonus, what do you call it? Judgment tokens. 1, 2, 3 units of 10 Hearthkin Warriors, which he would split up using the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sagittars that he had in his list. So he was able to take those 3 10s, turn them into 6 5s. 1, 2 units of Chthonian Berserks, 2 Land Fortresses, 1 6-man Pioneers, 1 3-man Pioneers, so these are the bikes, and then 1 unit of Jaegers. And these guys, or overall, like this unit is, and overall, this list I think is like actually probably pretty good into like Knights and things, simply because you have a lot of like las cannon equivalents that are sustained D3 and +1 hit and wound against Knights. So I can see this actually having a really good time to a lot of the meta Knight lists. However, he ended up playing this one against Guard. And we were playing this one on Mission L, which is Take and Hold, Search and Destroy. Okay. Now, on this one, again, my biggest thought process here was that I had better skirmishing power. My transports plus the Kazarkin inside are going to be better than the Sagittars and what the Sagittars have inside. Not the Sagittars are better transports than my transports, but the guys inside are a lot worse than the guys that I have inside. So I was going to try and hold Elijah to low primary, just make sure that I can prevent him from doing things. And in this game, it was like Sagittar, like Sagittar. I think the other one was over here, maybe? And then it was like Land Fortress, something like that. Okay. And all of his bikes were back here, and like a unit of dudes like on his home, and the Iron Master just kind of hung out back here. I don't know if it was an Iron Master because it's just like the cheapest character or what, but the Iron Master didn't really do a lot this game. But anyway, the biggest thing that happened this game, this is the story of the Immortal Taurox that'll tell you guys. And at the start of the game, I had deployed this Taurox here, okay? With the expectation that if I went first, it was going to scout forward, but I left enough space that if I went second, it could scout back to here. And then I had like a Chimera here, which was going to go out this way. I don't remember exactly where the Chimera was here. I think it was like a Chimera here, 20 Creek here. And I was getting ready to play the whole board against him. I ended up going first in this one. And we're going to do that. And so the Taurox went like this, and there's a Sagittar here. And once again, I end up drawing Bring It Down on the first turn. And the only way that I can potentially kill a Sagittar, or get a Bring It Down target at all, is if I kill this Sagittar. So what this Taurox ended up doing is it advanced its way to be right in this little pocket. And then it put a bunch of guys out, something like this. And then these guys grenaded and shot at the Sagittar. And the Sagittar, after all that, lives on 1 wound. So I'm pretty sad because I'm already in a spot where I have to give up a unit of Khazarkin to maybe kill a Sagittar. And it was really tough because I'm already giving him units kind of for free. And I'm expecting that this Taurox, which has the Judgment tokens on it, I'm expecting he's going to get this, pop the CP Pinata, and then just have like 4 CP going into turn 3. Going into bottom of 2, which was going to be really bad. However, Elijah didn't kill it. Like, this Taurox just hung out for an entire turn. So it was just kind of hanging out right here. And this is a really big deal because on Elijah's turn, on his turn 1, he takes 1 land fort and it goes to right about here. The biggest thing that he was trying to do is he wanted to make sure that this line did not exist. He did not want to get shot by Rogal Dorns. He did not want to let the Dorns or the Leman Russes shoot at the land fort before he got to shoot with his land fort. And what that meant was that this Taurox, when its guys were already dead, this Taurox just went here and here, and it charged into this guy. And let's see. And that is this guy. He ends up staying here for the rest of the game, basically. Oops. And so with the land fort, there's like one of them just up here. The other one just like moves right behind it, and there's like a Sagittar here. These guys, like this land fort, the Chthonian Berserks, and this one, all end up just being stuck. They just hang out right there. Because he's not willing to desperate escape this land fortress over. He didn't get the Chthonian Berserks out at all. He spends some CP at one point to try and give the land fort bonus AP going up against the Sagittar, or against the Taurox, but the Taurox just lived through it anyway. And this, how many points is this? Let's figure that out. So it's 1 Sagittar. So we'll bring this over here. 115 plus 200 points of Chthonian Berserks plus 225 plus 225. 765 points of his army just gets stuck here because he does not put in enough firepower to actually try and take down the Taurox, and it just lives. He's missing a lot because he's hitting on 4s. And like the Taurox just sits there for 2 entire battle rounds, just holding him in there. The rest of the game, there was one other really interesting spot in this game where I took out a Leman Russ Exterminator like over here. There's a unit of bikes, like a unit of 3 bikes here, and the land fort also here. And what I did with the Exterminator is it shot multi-meltas into this and did like no damage, but it actually just full killed the 3 unit of bikes over here. And what we learned from the judges was I did not have any judgment tokens at the beginning, but I got one for killing this unit, which meant that at the end of the activation, the Land Fortress was now eligible to shoot back at my Leman Russ. And the Leman Russ ended up going down to 1 wound basically for free because I did not realize that that's how the interaction worked. It's also one of those things where as soon as we like figured out that's how it worked, it's like, well, yeah, I guess I would not have been planning around that. That's not something that I would have wanted to do, nor did I expect to kill this bike unit in the first place. But it was okay. I ended up, almost losing the Leman Russ. It was probably going to die on the next turn of shooting anyway, but going down to 1 wound was, kind of tough. The big thing, though, in this game was that I had a big old unit of Death Corps of Krieg hanging out over here once again. The Land Fort killed like 3 guys in this unit. And on the other side of the board, I had enough tools over here that I could make sure that Elijah was not scoring it. And the end score for this one ended up being pretty low. It ended up being 51 to 31. And you guys might be asking, like, wait, why is this so low? That's because we only played 3 battle rounds of this game. On battle round 3, we're getting to like the bottom of 3. Elijah goes into it with about, I want to say like 35 minutes still on the collective clock for us to play, but he's just like stumped by like this Immortal Taurox that is just hanging out right here. He shot at it with some bolters. He spent some CP to give the Landfort plus 2 AP up against the judgment tokens. And so he hasn't killed it, which means that he hasn't gotten his CP pinata. He hasn't been able to move his land fortresses at all this entire time because it's just stuck there and you can't move your land forts through other land forts. And he ends up spending like 30 something minutes trying to figure out what to do. Because at this point in the game, he has 0 Sagittars. The unit of 3 bikes is dead. The Jaegers have been gone for a long time. Most of his warriors are also dead at this point, and so all he really has left is like these 2 land fortresses and the guys inside. And as he finishes up his bottom of 3, I just go like, hey dude, we only have like 2 minutes left. I don't really think that's enough to play out another battle round. And he's like, yeah, I think you're right. Plus, I don't think I can really come back, which I agree. But I think the biggest thing about this game is I think Elijah had his understanding of how this matchup plays backwards. He wants me to waste time shooting at his land fortresses because the land fortresses are not generally doing a lot of damage to Leman Russes. Like, they will generally do 4 damage to Leman Russ unless he pops off on his sustains. And but the Sagittars, like, they're still crazy inconsistent, but +1 to hit and wound and sustain D3 means that they can do a lot of damage all at once. And with all that in mind, like, he can start doing a lot of damage, and with 5 of them, he can start really pushing through Russes and Dorns relatively quickly. But he gave me the Sagittars first with the expectation that land fortresses were going to follow that damage up later. But that's backwards. You need to be putting the land fortresses out first because they're really durable. Yes, I'll probably kill 1 of them, but at that point, then you have 5 Sagittars shooting back. And so I think Elijah just played this one backwards. Put the land forts out first, then you use the Sagittars to follow up the damage. There's some games where it is the other way around, where you use the Sagittars as skirmishing tools for your land fortresses, but in this matchup, they are more your primary damage piece. And so with that in mind, end score, like we said, 51 to 31. Big thing here is Elijah only got 10 on primary, so I'm already up 10 on primary. He's not scoring any secondary because he just lost way too many things earlier on. So he's down just a ton of primary, a ton of secondary, and we called it after 3. But yeah, so that game happened relatively quickly. And that means we have one more game to talk about, which is on this board. And for the last game I played at the Tacoma Open, I played this one up against Justin Serrano and his Chaos Demons Demonic Incursion. And Justin is a fantastic player. Firstly, cool guy. Was he my favorite opponent to play against at this event? No, I think Anthony was my favorite opponent to play against at this event. Excuse me. Anthony was probably the coolest dude I played against, but Justin is number 2 in terms of favorite opponent that I played. And this is Demonic Incursion, and he's got a bunch of big ones. He's got Bellicor, Great and Clean one with the 4-up Feel No Pain enhancement. Lord of Change with, I think this increases the damage that he does. Lord of Change. Rodigus, Scarbrand, 1 unit of 3 Nurglings, 2 units of 10 Plague Bearers, 2 units of 5 Fleshhounds, and 1 unit of 5 Seekers. And this game was fairly interesting because, in my experience, this is a game that is almost always determined on turn 2. Turn 2 or sometimes 3, it is dependent on when the Demons player decides to just put their entire army out in front of you and see what happens. Okay, we played this one on Mission P, which is Scorched Earth, Crucible of Battle. And because I had played a similar game going up against his name's Nick, and an RTT recently where I played Bring It Down, Assassinate, I decided to try it again. And this time around, it was pretty interesting because a lot of really unlikely things happened. Justin ended up going first, which we kind of had a discussion at the end. I think doesn't have a strong impact on the game, but he thinks is a really big deal for his ability to actually play as demons. But anyway, so on his first turn, I had a Hellhound that was something like this, and he brought out Big Bird here, and he just one-shots the Hellhound. He hands me 6 saves, and I have 4-ups because he's taken, I think he took Ignore Cover, and so he has 6 saves, so 6 4-ups, 4-up saves to make, and each one does D3 damage. So my expectation here is I'm going to save about 3 of them, right? 3, 2, 4, something like that. And then each of these, D3, is approximately equal to 2. So I'm expecting to take anywhere between 4 and 8 damage, which is actually kind of a lot for shooting at a Hellhound. I fail all 6 of them. And that means that I'm expecting to take 12 damage. I think he rolls like 15 damage, but regardless of what ends up happening, the Hellhound just dies immediately. Okay, that's not good. The next thing that ends up happening, or the next really important thing that ends up happening is I end up getting a Taurox just hanging out on this objective. He had stickied it for a CP with the Screamers that had run over this way. And then I had also put a Chimera on this objective. And I think I put a unit of Krieg over here. I don't remember why this one came out. I'm sure I had a reason, but I don't remember what it was. Why did I put that Chimera there? I don't remember. I do not remember why that Chimera was there. Anyway, so I have a Taurox here and a Chimera here-ish, and he takes the Great Unclean one and just takes it this way and charges this. And he takes Rodigus over here, it goes this way, and it charges this. And in my experience, most of the time, Taurox is usually going to die like 70% of the time, but the Chimera is only going to die maybe 50% of the time. And he rolls fairly hot on both, and they both die, which is bad. But the other thing that happens is I have a Chimera around here with Kazarkin inside, and I think it's touching this objective, I think. But he has Big Bird here, and he shoots at the Chimera, and he almost kills it. He takes it down to 3 wounds. So I'm down to 3. Okay. So the game is set up. There is Great Unclean One around here. Rodigus is right about here. I think it's Battle Tank, something like this, Dorn, Exterminator. So I'm already missing out on this Hellhound, which is usually supposed to be alive. And this Chimera is maybe supposed to be alive. This Chimera is alive, okay? But my expectation is we are now in a spot where if I kill one of these big Nurgle demons, I'm in a pretty good spot. We continue to play the game. If I kill both of these Nurgle demons, the game ends on the spot. Like, there's not a way for Justin to come back if both these Nurgle demons are dead. Just because he's lost too much of his army too quickly, I will get, what is that? 6, 12. I will get 20 points of secondary kind of right away just for killing these 2 Nurgle demons. And if I kill neither of them, I lose the game. Okay. So what ends up happening, the first thing that ends up happening is this Chimera right here. I take a Battle Shock test, and I fail because I'm the Shadow of Chaos, because he controls 1, 2, and I only control 1, which means he controls half or more, and I fail the Battle Shock test. So then I take D3 Mortals, which ends up being a 3. This Chimera dies and explodes. That's really bad. One of the big things about the Demons matchup with Guard is that Chimeras with their 6 lasgun or 6 stubber shots plus 12 lasgun array shots is 18 attacks. Okay, in general, when you shoot this, you're going to get 3 lethal hits, and then like 1 to 3 more just normal wounds. But demons don't have an armor save. Most of them don't. Scarbrand and Bellicor, maybe. Most of them don't have an armor save, which means they're just straight on their 4-ups. And losing out on this Chimera ends up just losing out on a fair bit of damage shooting at the demons. Also, when the guys hop out, they become battle shocked and they can't move because they count as having made a normal move already. They can't move, they can't interact, they can't do much, they can't give themselves an order as well. So I run into a very quick spot where I'm missing out on my Hellhound, Taurox, and 2 Chimeras. I should be missing out on probably 1 Chimera, and I should probably still have the Hellhound at this point. So I'm just missing out on a lot of damage. But I line myself up. I put a tank here. This tank comes over like this way, so it can draw a line of sight. This Dorn sets itself up so it can shoot there or there. And this Exterminator sets itself up just to shoot at Rodigus. Okay. I set up some auxiliary stuff, so I have Kazarkin, Kazarkin here to make sure that I at least control these points, even if I don't kill the demons. And so I go ahead and shoot. I go ahead and shoot a bunch, and Rodigus ends up living, I think it's 3. And the Great Unclean One, with the 4-up Feel No Pain, ends up living, I think it's 5. And remember what I said about the game? If I kill 1, I'm in a good spot. If I kill both, I win the game. If I kill neither, I lose. There was a really big point in here where the Dorn was the last thing to shoot. So this only had 1 target. This only had 1 target. But these 2 had choices. The Luminous Battle Tank went this way, and I decided to split fire the Dorn into Rodigus and the Great Unclean One, and I got greedy. And because I got greedy and undercommitted into both targets, they both lived, and I lost the game on the spot. Around the same time, Scarbrand came over here, and he rapid ingressed, and he ended up charging into this Lehman Russ. And he killed basically everything in my army that wasn't a tank. He killed the Kazarkin. He killed one of my Lehman Russes. And so I was playing turn 3 with my Cadian Command Squad, Ursa Creed and friends, Exterminator, Rogel Dorn, and Lehman Russ. Only 5 units left in my entire army. That's just not enough. So I basically told him after that, it's like, hey, I think you've won the game, but, you know, maybe the dice will do something funny. I will go ahead and take one more shooting phase, and if it goes well, then we'll continue playing. Otherwise, I'll probably scoop. Because at this point, it's also just like, this is round 8 out of 8 games over the weekend. We were clearly both good enough players to know it's like, hey, yeah, this game is doomed. I'm tired. I don't necessarily want to play it out if I think it's doomed. And I roll. I don't even kill Scarbrand. I told him if I kill Scarbrand and both of the Nurgle demons, like, I think the game is playable from that position. But I didn't even kill Scarbrand. Like, I didn't even kill one of the demons at that point. So we just we did that. I tried to charge in the Cadian Command Squad to try and kill Scarbrand in melee. Still failed that. But yeah, that was the game. I think the biggest thing is just, I just needed to be less greedy. I thought I could kill both. If I'd gotten a little bit luckier, I could have killed both, but Justin hit just enough of his invul and feel no pains that I wasn't able to kill either of them. And if I had just committed enough of my army to kill one of them, I was in a really good position for the rest of the game. I got a little bit unlucky with a couple of things, but, you know, don't like blaming luck. Just like blaming bad decisions. So this one ended up, it's probably supposed to be 66, because I definitely am supposed to get another 5 here, but, you know, at that point, it's still not enough. I was not going to be killing really any more demons after turn 4, because I would have, like, 1 tank and the Dorn, so he was like, yeah, you probably killed 2 of them that are already on low health, because Scarbrand was on, like, 2, and Rodriguez was on, like, 4, or something at this point. You'll probably kill those, but then after that, I don't think you kill another one. So anyway, that is that. I ended up going 6-2 at this event, which put me at 46 overall. I unfortunately did not make the top 32 because I lost, like we talked about, I lost round 3 to Steve Trimble, who, as we talked about, also got first place at the event. But I kind of want to show you guys another thing that I do. Okay. So in general, I like tracking. If you haven't figured this out, I am a bit of a nerd. But this is overall what we were doing. So as you take a look, these are numbers pre-Tacoma. So this is names, faction, and elo. So I ended up winning. The only 2 players that I lost to were I lost to Steve Trimble, who was 1764 beforehand, and Justin Serrano, who was 1853 beforehand. Those are both very, very good players. Yeah, they're both fantastic players. And so the fact that I lost to 2 fantastic players, I'm still pretty happy with this event overall. The other big thing that comes out of this is elo updates. So I had gone to 1, 2, 3 GTs since the last time elo updated. This one, unfortunately, does not count because it only ended up being 4 rounds. Yeah, it only ended up being 4 rounds and not enough players, so even if we played a 5th round, it would not have counted for elo. This one did count, where I went 4-1. I only lost to making a mistake and then getting overpunished for it. And then this one, I ended up getting 6-2, but I only lost to people who are higher elo than me. Before this event, I was like 1670, I want to say. And then after that, it got updated. I went up to 1734 on the elo ladder. And that puts me at, currently, I am globally ranked number 317, which with about 33,000 players on the ladder, officially puts me in the top 1% of players in the world, which is pretty cool. Also, I met Patrick Greatbatch, really good guy, Canadian, so hopefully I'll get a chance to play him at some point. But 1734, feeling very good about it. It is now officially higher than my chess elo, which is also a really cool thing to happen. So yeah, very happy with that. Finally broke the 1700 barrier, and yeah, I mean, hopefully My general plan is I'm going to be applying to the Team USA Academy going into 2026. So hopefully I have a chance to apply, and maybe if I get lucky and it get better, maybe I'll play for Team USA in 2026 or 2027. So that's a long-term goal. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the questions that people have put in. So, yeah, that's that. That is the event. Let's go ahead and do the AMA. So as I mentioned beforehand, I recently broke 3,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, which is pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for coming along, especially for those of you who have chosen to become members or Discord or supporting in any way that you can. So in order to give back just a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and talk about talk about myself, talk about, what makes me tick and all that. Yeah, it is a lot of elo, so I went up quite a bit. If you're not familiar with this, by the way, everybody starts at 1,500, and then as you win, if you beat people who are higher rated than you, you'll get more points. If you beat people that are lower rated than you, you'll get less points, but you'll still get some points. The best players in the world are currently sitting around 2,000, 2,100 for the best couple of players in the world.